If you close deals in your business via scheduled sales calls and your show rate is sitting anywhere less than 70%, this video is going to show you exactly how and what to fix. I'm Scott Rodrigues. I'm COO of NetRevenue. We build and manage sales teams in companies that do anywhere from $1 million to $10 million a year in revenue. Now, one of the main things and main reasons people hire us is they cannot get people to show up to their sales calls. They might have a really good sales process, they might have a really good sales team, but for the life of them, they can't get people to show up to the calls that they're booking. And so their close rate on booked calls is always suffering, meaning less ROI, less return on ad spend, and making it harder and harder for them to scale. And then also increasing their churn rate on salespeople because they're spending half their day, looking at an empty Zoom screen. Here's the thing most founders get wrong about show rates. They think that a lead's not showing up, I've got to do like different SMS sequences, I've got to ask them different questions in the nurturing flows, and they try like testing 100 different ways to do that. When the reality is there's two main levers that you can pull, and there's obviously a lot of sub-segment things that you can do, but there's two main levers that you can pull to impact and influence your show rate. The first one is what happens before the lead schedules the call, and the second one is what happens after the lead schedules the call, okay? Today's video, we're gonna focus on the second one. We're gonna focus on what happens after the lead schedules the call and the most important things you can do to improve the show up rate. Transparently though, the first portion, what happens before the lead schedules the call, often has a much bigger impact on show rate. I will probably do a separate video on that entirely because it's incredibly important. The downside is that it's much harder to change and get a lift from it, right? It's probably because you're asking your leads to show up to a call too early in their cycles of awareness and their stages of awareness. And that's why they're not showing. You've made them that ask, but they don't care enough. They don't understand the problem enough. They're not even maybe they're not even problem aware to begin with, so they're probably not going to show up to that call, right? So what's happening before that is usually the much larger impact on show rate, but again, it's much more difficult to implement. What's happening after they schedule the call, if you watch this video and you implement it, you can quite literally start to see changes within the next day in your show rates. And I'm talking like large impacts. We've had companies come to us at 20% show rate. They've been stuck there for years and years and years. And we do these things and we can bring them up to 60%, 70% in some cases. But again, to get them to like the 80 and 90, they're probably gonna have to do the pre-booking work of what the lead is seeing before they schedule the call to actually get that rest of the delta, okay? So this video, we're gonna dive into the 7 things we do, okay? The 7 levers that we pull to impact and influence the show rate after the lead is already scheduled. And for context, our sales team right now takes about 10,000 sales calls every single month. Our research department actually pulled the data of what influences the show rate the most, and they put together an 80-page report of exactly what has impacted the show rate the most across all of our businesses that we work in, across 300,000 recorded verifiable sales calls. So everything we're going through today is not based off my feelings, it's based off of the real data. It's exactly what has impacted the show up rates in our actual company and the businesses within our portfolio. So the first thing we do when we're working on the show up rate post-booking is we work on the thank you page, okay? So everybody watching this probably already has some form of thank you page, right? The lead schedules the appointment on the calendar and they get redirected to a thank you for booking your call or congratulations for booking your call page. Sometimes you haven't built it and it's just the built-in page into the scheduling software that you use, right? We've all seen that, Calendly or Go High Level, thanks for booking your appointment. And other times you built it, okay? The thank you page should do 3 things. The first thing is reinforce the decision. The second thing is give clear-cut next steps. And the third thing is to give more content, okay? So to move that lead through those stages of awareness with that content, okay? So the first thing, reinforce the decision. All of our thank you pages, one obviously has the big headline, congratulations, you're booked, here's what's next. But then the most important thing is we have a video. Okay, so it's usually the hero video, it's usually the founder that's filming it. And in the video, it's again, congratulating them for taking that step, reinforcing why it was important, reinforcing the impact that this call is going to create for them, and then also starting to outline the next steps. Okay, so that's the first part of that video. It should be no more than 90 seconds, maybe 3 minutes at most, just really quick, really impactful as to exactly why they know they're in the right place. Okay, then under that, we have here's what's next. Here are the next steps. Okay, the next steps, usually we like to use screenshots and make it as dummy proof as humanly possible. So step 1, you'll receive a text message and an email from our team, and then usually it's the name of the closer, like our VP of enrollment or whatever the closer's title is that's customer facing. Make sure you reply Yes, right? And then we'll show a screenshot of what that text looks like. Step 2, add it to your calendar. And we show a screenshot. We say, make sure you click I know the sender, right? So there's that little I know the sender button on their email. And then step 3 is scroll down on this page, and maybe we'll have a screenshot for that because they can scroll down, but scroll down on this page and review the case studies and content to help you prepare for this call, okay? Now, what you have is the meat, the case studies and content. This might change depending on your business, depending on, what stage this lead is at in a funnel, if it's just like a VSL direct booking, or if they've gone through some sort of event, if they've gone through some sort of webinar, XYZ, this might change, but let's just keep it simple and say it's case studies. Then the third part of your thank you page at the bottom is usually some case studies or content that the lead can go through, right? We've all heard the fact of a lead needs to consume X amount of content before they're ready to buy from you. Having more that they can go through on that thank you page, especially if they're in like binging mode and they've just been, scrolling on whatever it is, YouTube or Instagram, wherever they saw your business, then they schedule a call and they're still kind of in that binging mode and they schedule it. For them to have more content that they can go through, the better. Okay, so we like to do video testimonials. Another really good thing is if you've done sales calls already and you know the main objections that your leads are asked, each video be that objection and then you handling it. Or if you're doing video testimonials, you can have the title be the buyer archetype, single mom, no savings, and then an arrow, $10,000 per month, right? Or whatever the transformation is. And you can have that on each one for their starting point and then their transformation. So now me as the buyer can connect with one of those archetypes and then watch that testimonial and put myself in their shoes, okay? So another thing we do on the case studies and content portion is we do like a how it works portion. We don't do this on all of our thank you pages, but for the more complex kind of build outs and the more complex offers or businesses, we'll often do like a how it works page, and we'll break down the solution or the transformation into like 5 steps and have that at the bottom of the page that they can continue to binge and go through. Okay, and then lastly, a really good thing too is have these on YouTube, right? So every video that you have on there on YouTube, so that when they click it, it automatically suggests another video for them and they can keep that binging cycle going. Okay, so dial in that thank you page and you make it really seamless for the lead to see those next steps, to reaffirm the decision that they've already made and then be able to binge more content from you. That's gonna already be a really big lift on them showing up or responding to you when you reach out. The second thing is the speed to booking. Okay, we call it speed to booking, but it really is just speed to lead or speed to call, whatever you call in your organization, the speed to booking. So every call that comes in, you wanna call them within 5 minutes. I prefer having the closer call them. I prefer having the salesperson who's taking the appointment, give them that call. Now, if you're on a call, you should have maybe an appointment setter, or you have like a calendar manager or a lead manager. They can make that call as well, and they can position themselves as the assistant to the closer, okay? A lot of people say that as the closer, I don't want to call them because it lowers my status. It's better to have my assistant call them. I think that's bullshit. I think if you call them and you have a really great intro call with them, you have a good script that you follow, you make them feel good, you make them remember you, and you make them excited to want to talk to you more. I think that'll do way more than like this fake authority of having an assistant call them and be like, yeah, you're going to speak with my assistant at XYZ time. I think that does way better. Plus, it's like if I'm a closer, I don't want the first impression of the lead to be from someone who's less skilled than me. That's really just it, right? So if I'm a closer, I want the first impression of a lead, I want them to be like, wow, and I want them to be excited to talk to me more, right? So we call within 5 minutes. That's our goal. If I'm on a call, I have somebody else do it. We've got Slack notifications set up, so I get a book call, I get a Slack message right away, and an internal notification on the CRM, and a text message on my personal phone. So I get hit from multiple angles. I give the lead a call immediately. We have a whole script for it, but basically what I'm doing is I'm introducing myself. I'm asking them what kind of prompted them to want to schedule the call. It's more feel good. I'm not really challenging them. I'm not asking them any hard to answer questions. And then I'm also letting them know how they can prepare for the call as well. The third thing that's going to impact your show rate. Okay, so you've got a really good thank you page. You're calling all your leads within 5 minutes. The third thing is the booking window. So we've done the math on this. One of our internal studies that we ran within all of our recorded calls and data was that leads that booked within 48 hours had a 40% higher likelihood of showing up to the call. Okay, so just them booking within 48 hours versus anything more, they were 40% more likely to book to the call. And then that number drastically got worse the further out they went, right? So at 72 hours, it was much worse, exponentially worse. At 120 hours, it was much worse. But the most important thing is, and this is the key part, the leads that booked within 48 hours were 160% more likely to close. right? So they're 40% more likely to show, they're 160% more likely to actually close, because the window where they've got this pain and they want this solution is always highest earlier on, right? And then also they're more likely to have bought another solution, or the problem just goes away on its own, whatever it is, right? So the likelihood of me closing them is significantly higher if it's within the first 48 hours of them scheduling the appointment. And we've got real data, like I said, across 300,000 plus calls to prove this. So again, what does that mean? It means I'm 2.6 times more likely to close someone if I get them on a Zoom call within 48 hours. That's a huge number to keep in mind. So what we do, all of our calendars, is we limit them to usually 72 hours. This is gonna depend on bandwidth, right? So depending on your team's bandwidth, you might wanna do 4 days, you might wanna do 3 days. We don't usually do any more than 4 or 5, okay? I try to have it at 3. If I've got a team that doesn't work weekends, what I do as a sales manager on Thursday will increase it, okay? So on Thursday, they'll increase it to 5 so that leads aren't missing times out on the calendar, okay? And then what you will notice is when you've got way less times open on your calendar, you've only got 3 days versus having 10, your lead to book ratio will decrease, right? The leads that are booking calls now all of a sudden will have less times to choose from, and it will decrease. The important part though is that if you've got really, really good speed to lead and you've got really dialed in nurturing, the second a lead comes in and they don't schedule a call, you call them the second they do that, and you offer them other time slots outside of that maybe they didn't see, your lead to book rate shouldn't suffer. But if you're not calling your leads that aren't booking calls, then yeah, your lead to book rate will suffer. And then I recommend just opening up the calendar so they have more spots to choose from. Now, the fourth thing we do, so when you make that outbound call, remember how I mentioned that you should be sending them some sort of homework or some sort of pre-call material to go through that you're gonna be sending them after you make that initial outbound call, and then also having it in your nurturing flows. Okay, so we really like using how it works pages where we have a separate page of, well, this is how the offer works, this is how we help people, this is the transformation. You could also do like personalized case studies, right? So depending on their application, you might have 10 to 15 different case studies. So a case study is different than testimonial, right? A testimonial is the prospect or the member that you have who's talking about their experience. A case study is like, what is the actual steps this person took to get to where they are now and to get the transformation that they're looking for, right? So what we do is we make like 10 to 15 with different buyer archetypes where they started from different points in their lives and they went through slightly different variations of the journey of the transformation. We've got 10 to 15, and then based on their application, we can ascribe a different one within those nurturing flows, right? So if they put in their application that their biggest problem is money, they might get someone who started with a money problem, right? If they put in their application that their biggest problem is time, we might put someone who put in their application their biggest problem is time, for example, right? So having these kind of personalized case studies or having a how it works page is the fourth thing we do, which we're usually introducing in the pre-call nurturing sequences or during that outbound call that I make to them, the speed to booking, where I'm saying, hey, I'm gonna send you this. Make sure you go through it before our call. I think you're gonna find a ton of value. It's really gonna help you understand XYZ to get them more of that content. And again, like I said before, this stuff can also live on your thank you page, but doesn't mean I'm not reinforcing it later on the call. Okay, so that's the fourth thing I do, is getting them more content before the appointment. The fifth thing is the automations, the pre-call booking reminders. This is probably where most people spend most of their time, and most founders spend most of their time iterating upon. We don't have real significant data that says, saying this opening question versus this one gets better results. The reality is, like, a lot of them, they all work. Try to sound human, try to have good connection with your prospect, try to connect to something that they would have connected with earlier on in the funnel. And the pre-call automations will get the similar results depending what you change here and there. I do recommend testing different things. I'd recommend testing different approaches, but that's really just it. So what we do is we have an SMS and an email that goes out the moment they book. We have a 24-hour reminder, we have a 3-hour reminder, and we have a 10-minute reminder. All SMS and email, okay? The 24 is a little bit more value-based. It's obviously a reminder, but then also value. The 3 and 15 are purely reminders, okay? Here's the appointment, here's the time, here's the Zoom link. And then the confirmation, we usually try to prompt some sort of reply, okay? So in that first initial immediate confirmation text and email, we're usually asking for a reply yes, XYZ. We're still making it sound like a human as much as possible, but hey, shoot me back a yes so that I know I got the right number, I got the right information. Works wonders, okay? So that is the fifth thing, is those pre-call automations. Most people have this. If you don't though, you definitely wanna put that in place. The sixth portion is moving calls forward, right? So like I said before, the booking window is one of the biggest impacts, right? If you can speak to someone within the first 48 hours, or the first 72 hours, that is a huge impact on your close rate. Like we said, almost 3x impact on your close rate. So what we do is on our speed to booking, when the closer or myself or whoever's taking the calls calls the lead within 5 minutes of them booking a call, we always offer them a sooner time slot. Always. Okay. I don't care. A lot of people think like, oh, well, I want to seem busy. I want to seem like, hey, you know, I've only got this time available, XYZ. To me, that's completely untrue. You want to meet the prospect where they're at. And if you can get them on a Zoom call sooner, you should do it. So if I've got a slot open at 1 p.m. and I'm calling them at 9 a.m. and their sales call is only 3 days from now, I will 1000% within that call, within my script, have a portion where I'm like, hey, I've got a time open actually at 1 p.m. If you want to do this sooner, I could send you the resources and we could do the Zoom call then. And you will be shocked at how many people say yes, and then how quickly your show up rate starts to increase, okay? Because now all of a sudden they've scheduled this call with a human, with you, they've booked it with you, and now they're not no-showing a funnel, they're not no-showing an ad, they're no-showing a person. And they've also like already changed your schedule. So there's that kind of act of reciprocity where you've made time for them sooner, they're way more likely to show up. And then again, like I said, if you get on a Zoom with them within 48 hours, they're way more likely to close. Okay, so that's the sixth thing, is moving the appointments forward. The seventh and the last portion of what we do post-booking is the appointment setter handoff, okay? So a lot of our bookings come from appointment setters. They don't come from directly from the funnel. Like I said before, if you're decreasing your booking window to below 72 hours or below 4 days, your lead to book ratio might lower itself. It might get a little bit worse. So this is where your appointment setters really come into play. They're calling the new leads as soon as they come in and they're booking them on the closer's calendar. This handoff we found is crucial for show up rate when you've got the appointment setter involved. So what we do is we do a group chat function. Okay, we don't do this on all of our accounts because not all the CRMs really allow for it. But when possible, we do a group chat where the setter puts the closer in the group chat with the client and does a warm handoff where, hey, this is the closer. They're super excited to work with you on XYZ. Let me know how it goes. Okay, so that's one of the first things we do that really, really helps. Another key element is we try as best as possible to do live transfers. Okay, so when I'm a setter and I'm on a call with a lead, as I'm booking their call and getting them on the calendar, I'll book the call first, okay? I'll book them an appointment first. This way I get them on the calendar. And then I'll say, hey, actually, I just noticed that what's his name is available right now. It seems like someone didn't show up. Do you want me to just transfer you over and get him on the call and you guys can, he can show you XYZ now? Doing these live transfers, obviously it's stupid. It's obvious that your show rate will improve if you do live transfers, right? Because you're already on the phone with them. But nobody does it. So many people think that, well, I need to give them time to go through the resource. I need to give them time to do XYZ. That's just really not the case. Get them on the call with the closer. Okay, so our appointment setters, like I said, when they book the call, they're doing a one handoff in a group chat, and when possible, they're doing live transfers. And our show up rate for our appointment setters across the board right now is around 85%. So most of the bookings that our appointment setters are booking are showing up by a wide margin. And that's really the two most important things that they're doing. And that's it. Those are the 7 things. Those are the 7 levers that we pull post-booking to increase the show up rate within the companies that we work for. The most important thing though is your leadership standards, right? So if you do all these things and then you don't maintain them, they won't help, right? If you tell your team, hey, call leads within 5 minutes, and then you're not tracking those numbers, you're not enforcing those numbers, you're not celebrating the people that are doing it, it won't last, okay? So the last kind of final thing is, as a leadership team, if you've got a leadership team or if you're that sales leader right now as a founder, you have to create a culture and an environment where those numbers and those KPIs and these standards are consistently enforced. Okay, so that's it. Really hope this video was valuable for you guys. We've been able to really transform our own show up rate, but also show up rates for the companies that we work for by doing these 7 things. I'll attach a resource in the caption that you guys can download that has basically all of these in a document. And if you want to work with us, if you want to work with NetRevenue and you want our help to scale your business and scale your sales team, the website will be in the caption of this video. You can apply to work with us. Every company that applies to work with us gets a free audit where we basically do an in-depth, usually it's a 10 to 15 page report of exactly what you need to focus on to scale your business. It's incredibly valuable. We've had businesses say they would pay us up to $6 grand for it, but we do it for completely free because selfishly it helps us understand if we can and how we can work with you. And then if not, you still get a ton of value along the way. So hope that was valuable. I will see you all on the next video.